Hello. So today I am filming my favorite fantasies of 2020. Obviously I read more than what I'm about to tell you about, but these were the ones that I liked best. The first book that I believe I finished in 2020 was a fantasy, and I'm pretty sure that was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is one of my favorite books of all time now. It was so good. So if you don't know what this is about, um, this is a fantasy about a magical circus in our world that seems to be untouched by time. So there was like a spell put on the circus, and no one seems to be getting older. No one is changing except for two children. Um, they're the only ones getting older, and I think that's because they were born right before midnight, right before the spell was cast, which was kind of the person who cast the spell. But basically, we follow these two young people, and I don't. Celia and Marco are their names, so they are pictured here. Basically, they are set to kind of duel against each other for their entire lives, starting at the age of 6, I believe, or maybe like 6 and 9, I think, actually. But they are taught by their mentors. Celia's mentor is her father, and Marco's mentor is, I guess you could say, like his adopted father. But they are supposed to duel for as long as it takes, however long, until one of them dies or gives up or goes crazy. Um, this is just so good. It is so beautifully written, and I wish that I had read it sooner because some of the chapters have epitaphs, which is part of the fantasy book bingo, but I didn't know about that till like March of this year. Uh, but this is a must read. If you've read the Starless Sea, I guarantee you will like this. The Starless Sea is also about also written by Erin Morgenstern, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But this is a must read if you like circuses or you like magic. You have to read this. Check it out, seriously. So the next book that I read was actually The Starless Sea. I listened to the audiobook, as I said a second ago, that was also written by Erin Morgenstern. It is another fantasy set in our world with like almost a separate world as the fantasy part. So the fantasy part of this book is that there is a library under the entire world, and our main character, I want to say his name is Zachary or Zach. Um, our main character gets like swept up into it, and he has always loved books, and so when he gets swept up into it, he's kind of scared but also really delighted because it's very magical. Like it just seems to go on for forever. And there's like a magical kitchen where you can just like ask for anything and they will make it, and it'll be there in like 2 seconds. There's just like an endless wardrobe that seems to know your size for everything and just like pops up whatever kind of clothes you really most enjoy wearing. Obviously, there are millions of books to read, but early on in the book, he is warned not to go too deep into the library because people have gotten lost and they're never seen or heard from again. And if they are, they're crazy. Um, Not only that, but it seems like the library is like outside of time. So it's not uncommon to meet someone from a different time than you're living in because you're not really living in your time anymore. So there's also a time travel aspect to this, and like all these little side stories. It is just so cool. Like you have to read it. I don't know how else to explain it, but like it's again, she's just beautifully written everything. So the next book that I read was actually by Kierra Cass, and that is the Siren. Kierra Cass, if you don't know, wrote the Selection series, which I have not read, but I really enjoyed the Siren. I will say that if you listen to the audiobook, the narrator kind of got on my nerves. Her voice was just kind of annoying to me. But I really enjoyed The Siren. It is about a young woman, I want to say 19 or 20, who basically the opening scene of the book is her ship, or her, like, the large ship that she's on, not the Titanic, but like something like an equally large cruise ship. An equally large cruise ship is crashing and no one knows why, but it seems like everyone is just like walking away from whatever they're doing. And she does too. And it's not until she hits the water that she realizes that she's going to die. And it becomes very clear that the sirens are the reason why the ship is sinking. And so, in a moment of desperation, she begins to beg for her life. And the sea hears, and the sirens hear, and they rescue her with a deal. And the deal is that she has to do the ocean's bidding for 100 years, and that means singing people to their deaths, whether it's just one person walking into the sea and never coming back out again, or an entire giant cruise ship of people, or, you know, something like that. So we fast forward, and she's only got like 20 years left. Like, she's nearly done. And part of the deal is that they cannot speak aloud in front of humans. They can speak aloud when they're together in their own apartment and it's safe. But if they're in public, they want to talk to each other, they have to use American Sign Language or like write out notes. But they cannot speak to humans out loud. They can write notes and things and like try to teach them sign language, but that's it. And if you speak, then or sing, then that person or group of people will go try to drown themselves. So that's part of the deal. And it's all going fine until our main character, Colin, meets a boy, of course, and it all falls apart. So, yeah, so then the sea gets angry, obviously, and retaliates and says that she has to do more time and she can never see this boy again. But I won't say any more because otherwise I'll spoil it. But that was a pretty good book as well. It was only like a 6 hour audiobook, so it's probably fairly short if you read it physically. That would be a good fun read. Um, but yeah, so the next one that I read was Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like it's set in like an imagined version of Russia or somewhere like equally cold and dark and dreary. Um, it's just always cold. It's always rainy in this town, even though I think it's supposed to be like nearly springtime. But we follow six characters, and it kind of reminded me of The Thief Lord, if you've ever read that book or seen that movie. But the gang of six people that we follow is led by Kaz Brecker, and he is, like I said, he's the leader, and he's also the mastermind in all of the kind of plans that they're doing. It's very much like, it's also like Robin Hood, like stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. But they're mostly like keeping the money for themselves or their own families and friends. Like, they're not like giving it to a bunch of other people. Um, this is really dark. Like, one of the main characters, or two actually, the two female characters were both in pleasure houses or brothels. So yeah, they both wind up getting away, and like this book is following them after that point, but throughout the book they're like remembering their time there, and like the madam is trying to get one of the girls back, and the other girl is like she's free, and now like she sells a different service where she can basically like calm you down, or like she slows your heart rate, so she like calms you down, um, and can like help you grieve or forget your grief for a little while. So that's what she's selling instead of her body. This was really good, really dark, but also like very action packed. Like there were some awesome fight scenes. There is magic, like I said. Nina can like calm you down. Um, there are people who can like manipulate objects like metals and like walls and wood and things. There are people who can like manipulate the weather. Uh, the other girl in the book, Inej, she is like a knife thrower and assassin, so she's pretty cool. Um, this is a really great book, and I think it's a really great series. I've not read the other books yet. This was the first one that I'd read. Um, but this is a must read if you can, like, if you don't mind a really kind of dark book. So maybe if you do read this, maybe have something light on hand to read when you're done reading this. But otherwise, I really enjoyed it. So the next book that I read was another audiobook, which I mean, obviously you can get the physical copy, but it was the Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. So this one is another dark fantasy. It is about a girl named Alice who she and her mother are like constantly on the run, and she doesn't really understand why, except that her mom always says they're trying to outrun the bad luck, which seems to always follow them. Like uh Alice was kidnapped when she was a small child. They are like constantly being kicked out of like apartments, off of like friends of friends of friends sofas, and like having to live in their car, stuff like that. But she thinks that they have finally outrun the bad luck when Alice's grandmother dies. And so they decide to finally settle down in a house, and like her mom gets married and they think life is great until Alice comes home from school one day and her mother is missing. And there's a note that says she was taken by the hinterland, which is the world that her grandmother wrote her book about, which is a series of dark fairy tales. And so Alice enlists a friend from school to help her go find her mother and rescue her from the hinterland. So again, this is really dark. I can't say too much more or I'll give a whole bunch of it away, but this was really, really good. Um, Kind of also a hate to love romance. Um, but yeah, it was really good. So if you like dark fairy tales, definitely look into that. The last one that I finished was The Queen's Rebel Rose, which is basically a historical retelling of The Beauty and the Beast, because The Beauty and the Beast is set during the time of the French Revolution. So we follow Belle after she's broken the curse on the Beast and they're on their honeymoon, and they have to figure out how to keep the French Revolution away from their own kingdom. So they rush back from Paris to stop the revolution and try to keep everyone calm and civil and figure out the best way to run their kingdom. And it was so, so good. She talks a lot about her library, and it was just awesome. But I am out of time now, so that is all. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe, and let me know if you want to see more videos like this.